What's up there, my fellow Youpreneurs? Welcome back to another monthly chit-chat here inside of the Youpreneur Academy. I'm joined by my good friend, Lou Mongello from WDWWDWW.
It just rolls
and
off the
all
tongue,
the,
doesn't
It's so good. I can never get it right. Give me it again, WDW.
WDW Radio.
I'll never get it wrong again now. Lou is probably one of my oldest friends in the game of online business. We met, I think, originally, I'm going to say 2011.
That sounds about right, yeah.
About that time, right? He still looks incredible. I've lost so much more hair since then. It's one of those weird friendships. We're weird friends. We don't really talk that much in between actually seeing each other in person, except for the odd text and things like that every now and then. But when we see each other, I don't know about you, but for me, I instantly fall in love with you all over again. He's just, I can't help but love this guy. And you will be tomorrow speaking at the Youpreneur Summit, and I'm very honored, very blessed to have you. You flew out to the Philippines for Tropical Think Tank, where you dropped copious amounts of value bombs on stage. So now that I've made everybody fall in love with you just as much as I do, let's get into your story a little bit. Is that cool?
Absolutely, brother.
All right, so I'll cap it. Lawyer, great career, doing well, Disney fan. The worlds collide, and then that's that. Talk us through it all. I can't wait to hear this.
So you say lawyer, I say don't hold that against me, right? I swear I'm a good guy, like even though I was a lawyer from New Jersey, right? It's what I always dreamed about doing since I was a little kid.
Why? Why a lawyer?
So my dad was an attorney, but I don't think that was the reason why. I blame Al Pacino.
Yes.
I'm out of order. You're out of order. Yeah. The whole court's out of order. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to do.
I want to do that.
Yeah,
right.
I was a theater major in school, and I loved sort of the theatrics of practicing law and doing trial work. And until I found out that it's nothing like that at all. You're behind a desk 6 nights a week, like inundated with paperwork. But I wanted to help people. So I was an attorney. I had an IT consulting company on the side, which means I didn't sleep very much. But I was a Disney fan since...
So that's how I see now. I didn't know that. That shows that you had a little bit of the entrepreneurial bug in you, even at the same time.
I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until like years later. And I think I learned it from my parents, right? You're going to make me cry telling stories about my dad who's passed, right? So my dad was an attorney. My mom ran my uncle's medical imaging center, but we had like an antique business on the side and a bagel store. So I was learning entrepreneurship.
You were around it anyway.
I was around, and I didn't even know the word existed, right?
Yeah.
But like
well, my son Charlie, who you've met,
Yeah.
He drops business value bombs on me because he hears it at the dinner table and all that stuff as well. Like he likes
sponges.
He said the other night, he said, "Daddy, that's branding, Daddy. You should know this." And I'm like, "What is going on here?" Right? So and then you'd always been a Disney fan.
Yeah, since I was a little kid, we always used to drive down like the Griswolds and the family truckster to Disney World, and I was always in the service business. I wanted to make something once. I had the idea for a book, and all I knew about was useless Disney knowledge. So I wrote the book I wanted to read, which was a trivia book. And next thing you know, the dominoes start to fall, and never part of the plan. But
so what were maybe kind of 2 or 3 of those first dominoes that you sort of, when it happened, when they fell, you turn around and say, "Hang on, there might be something in this here."
So learning about podcasting in 2005 was obviously a game changer.
Right? Now that sounds ancient.
It is.
Like, but this is the thing. Everybody thinks that podcasting is still like a new thing. It's not. It's been around for a long time already. It's just that it hasn't been as widespread as it is today.
So I am a computer nerd. I didn't date very much, so I was always like fooling around. And when I heard about this new medium where you could create audio content and distribute it, I was fascinated by it. So I jumped in like April 2005, and then the real tipping point literally happened one day with one phone call. Like my wife, I'll never forget, my wife comes running down. This is what a phone used to look like. She comes running down with the phone in her hand.
We was just talking about VHS players a minute ago, right?
And on the other end is a woman who says, "Hey, I run so-and-so company. I've been listening to your podcast. I love what you do. What do you charge to sponsor it?" And I like looked at the phone like in slow motion, like, what am I? And I'm like, let me get back to you with a proposal. And I hung up the phone. I was like, now what do I do? Like I had no idea that somebody was willing to pay me to do what I loved, and that really was a seminal moment and shifted everything for me.
So, how many episodes of WDW have you got in the bag now?
So 570 something, but that does I did a show before that for about a year. So, I've probably done 700 podcast episodes.
Yeah, of your own,
of my own.
Plus, obviously, a ton of interviews and all the rest of it as well.
Video and live video and all the things, sort of secondary, tertiary stuff.
So then, now at this point, were you living in Florida? Were you living near Disney? It's Disney World in Florida, right? Were you living near Disney World at this point?
No, I was still living in New Jersey. And I was flying back. I was basically commuting to Orlando a couple of times a month. And at one point I said, look, I think I can do something. I think I can make this a business. I don't know how, but I need to be where my business is. And as an entrepreneur, there were many, many leaps of faith. And I sold my house. I brought money to my closing, which is not the way it's supposed to work. I packed up the Honda Odyssey and put all my junk in storage, and I drove down to Florida to move into a house that my parents, who happened to be down there, had rented for me. To give it a shot, and knowing that if it didn't work, I would do whatever I had to do to make sure my family ate 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. You didn't want to go hungry, right? And how was your wife with all this?
So don't tell her I said this, but I mean, I wouldn't.
It's just us, few thousand people. Don't worry about it.
I mean, I wouldn't be here. We can't do what we do without the support of the people who are closest to us. So when I told my dad, who I was in the firm with, that I wanted to leave to pursue this other thing, he said, go give it a shot. You always have a place to hang your hat. When I told my wife, I'm thinking about writing a book, she's like, well, all you know about is Disney. And I went down and I wrote, and when I said, I think we need to move to Florida, the words yes weren't, she was sitting on the couch watching TV. The word yes, I agree, were coming out of her mouth. I ran downstairs and started packing because I was afraid she was going to change her mind.
Right.
Without the support system, it couldn't happen.
So we fast forward now many years later, and I see you. I live vicariously through this man and his life. Because me too, also a big Disney fan. Not necessarily of the parks and things like that, but in terms of their values, their missions as a company, and Walt said it. We don't make movies to make money. We make money to make more movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of stuff. That's gold, true blue legacy.
He's the inspirational entrepreneur.
Without a doubt. And I live vicariously through your bloody lives. His Facebook lives are amazing. He's on red carpets. He's got little mics, and he's interviewing actresses and actors and everything to do with Disney now. This is what you do every single day of your life now. You live and breathe this. You must be one happy dude.
I'm the luckiest, most blessed man on the planet. I always say that success isn't measured in terms of dollars and cents. It's in levels of happiness. And if that's the case, I feel like I'm the most successful man in the room.
Yeah. So, okay, so give us a little bit of an idea then, 2 or 3 major moments over the last few years for you where you've been in a situation of some variety and you thought to yourself, I can't believe I get to do this for a job. You're 2 or 3 of them, just drop them.
So there was going to the Philippines to speak at your conference there, being at Upreneur Summit in 2019.
That's 2.
Meeting you at I guess I probably met you at Blog World. There's so many moments that I'm like, I can't believe this is my job. I just came back from Japan last week. I get to do cruises, like Disney cruises with my community.
Yeah.
I've got to meet some amazing people. I don't want to seem like I'm name dropping, but all right, I'm going to name drop.
Drop some names, Mr. M.
So one of I always say this, especially in podcasting. You never know who's listening, right? You never know who's on the other end. And I'll never forget, years ago, I had a booth at a Disney convention, and my wife, who helped me, said, "You got to come." I was walking around live broadcasting. She said, "You got to stay here. Some dude keeps coming over asking for you." This is 2007, I guess, and. At one point I'm there, and there's this guy standing in the corner, just jeans, T-shirt, baseball hat on. He walks over. I said, "Hey, how are you?" He said, "Yeah, I just, I wanted to meet you. I've been listening to the show for years." I said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" He said, "I was going to come here anyway, but in fact, my company just got bought by Disney." I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. What company is it?" He goes, "Marvel." I'm like, oh, that's great, man. I'm like, what do you do there? And I'm like, he's the janitor. He like is
Right.
an accountant. He's like, and he looks at me. He's like, oh, do you know like Iron Man and Hulk and so I guess it was 2009. I said, yeah. He said, I made them. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I'm Kevin Feige.
Yes.
And I'm like, and I was like, and I pretended that I knew. Remember, this is 2009. But
Right,
pretended
right,
that I
right.
knew who Kevin Feige was, who's the president of Marvel Studios.
Yes.
Long story longer, I said, oh my God, this is great. Like, I'd love to have you on the show. Do you have a card? He goes, I don't have any cards on me. I said, well, maybe you can come and we'll do an interview. He's like, the ink is still drying on the contract. And he walks away. I'm like, you sucker. This
You've
was
lost
some
it.
dude.
Yeah.
And I called my brother, and I'm like, who's the president of Marvel Studios? And I'm like, send me a picture of what he looks like. And very, very long story longer, Kevin's been listening. One of the seminal moments, I interviewed on the show, and he said, Lou, when I was making Iron Man, I was so incredibly stressed out. He goes, your show got me through Iron Man.
Forget
And-
about it. That's
And
it.
Kevin and I have become friends, and,
Yeah.
and you
That's
never
awesome.
know. Yeah, connections you never would have made otherwise. So
Yeah. Now, you have to just, you guys can carry on like listening or watching if you want, but I'm just going to keep going with this. Galaxy's Edge, you've been there.
Yeah.
You know I'm a massive Star Wars fan, like a freak. Star Wars freak is what it is. How good is it?
So, again, I was invited to the opening in California, which opened before World, and I will never forget the moment that I walked in from backstage and I saw the Millennium Falcon, and I cried.
Oh my God.
Like I didn't
Yeah.
get cooked. Like there were literal like man tears streaming down my
Yes.
face, because as a kid who grew up on the original trilogy, that remembered seeing it for the first time with my dad.
Yeah.
This was the realization of something that I
Yes.
imagine, like living in this world. Chris, you step through that portal and you're transported somewhere else. It is unlike anything I have ever seen anywhere.
And I mean, you've done all the parks all around the world. They've got, amazing lands and all the rest of it. But when they started talking about this, I was like, this is going to be either crazy or really bad. But knowing Disney the way we do,
Yeah.
they're going to put everything into it. I hear you can build your own lightsaber.
You have to build your own lightsaber.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily...
Oh, I'm going to build
It's not
my
just
own
for the
lightsaber. It's
The
going to happen.
experience alone is... And I'm not going to spoil it for
No,
you.
no, don't.
But
There's
the experience
videos on
alone-
YouTube. My
Don't
son's
watch
watched them.
Dad!
But he's like, Dad, you got to watch. And I'm
Don't
like,
watch
no,
it.
I don't want it. I don't want
Because
to.
there's a moment
Yeah.
that moment happens, you're like, it's worth every penny.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I did it with my son, just because I wanted to see it. through his
Yeah,
eyes,
right. You'd already done it yourself like 5 times or something, probably. I remember going to see. I didn't see the first film or episode 4 in the cinema because I was only 4 years old, but I did go and see Empire, and I remember having a full-blown meltdown in the lobby of the Odeon Cinema in Wimbledon here in London after I found out that Darth Vader was Luke's dad. That freaked me out. I was very upset about that.
I didn't believe it. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a red herring.
Where-
This is not true. It shattered all of my,
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to the interview. So let's talk on a very serious note, just for a second. Let's talk monetization here, because it's all very well to say, well, I go to all the red carpets, I do this, I get pre-screenings and all this other stuff that you enjoy. How do you make money out of this? And we don't need to talk dollars and cents here, but I mean, what are you doing? You've got this huge community. What do you do as the leader of that community
Wait,
to ultimately...
I'm supposed to be making money at this point?
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, you got to figure this out. I know a good personal branding coach that'll be able to help you out on that. But no, what are you doing to monetize this?
So I really believe that there's not a single strategy that you have to have, right? I believe in sort of the Disney, sort of the hub and spoke, and the podcast is the hub, and then there's all these sort of secondary and tertiary spokes.
Yes.
So in terms of the podcast, I really sort of think that there's 3 ways. You could monetize the audience, you could monetize through sponsors, and you monetize yourself, right? You monetize your audience with premium content, Patreon, membership community, lots of different ways you could do it that way. Sponsorships is another great way. I've had a partner for 10 plus years because it just makes sense for the both of us. And then you could monetize yourself, as you know, with speaking, coaching, workshops. I host my own events and consulting because I want to help people do what I did. I want to help them make that transition and find that thing that they love and turn it into the thing that they do.
Now you have an intimate event that you hold. Is it once a year or twice a year? What is it called?
Momentum.
Momentum. Right. Okay. So that is. Do you do that at one of the Disney parks as well?
I do it it's at a Disney hotel.
So good. The way you kind of. There's a little David Brent for you all. So good the way you kind of put it all in together. But these are people that are all about wanting to build legacy, wanting to build businesses and all the rest of it. Not necessarily always Disney fans. Right.
I mean, that's where they come from. I mean, most people come from the community, but it's
Right.
a 50-person event because I want it to be very workshoppy. Look, I've been to lots of conferences where there's thousands of people and I would get lost and I'd go
Yeah.
home with a notebook full of things and I would never do anything.
Yeah.
I want to make changes right there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, people don't have accountability partners or friends that can help them.
Yeah.
I want to sort of make that one of those moments that they can point to and say, this event changed for me.
So where do you see this going for yourself now in the next... I mean, this has been, what, 10, 12 years or so?
So I've been doing it full time, for almost 13 years.
Wow, okay. So where do you see... Because, I mean, a lot of things have changed over that time, right? Social media is a whole different ballgame now compared to what it was 12, 13 years ago. Everything's video now. Yes, podcasting is still huge. But now you've got, all these other things that Disney, Disney Plus. Let's not talk about the Obi-Wan TV show because I might start to, go a little cuckoo. And all these other things. Like, what's next for you and the brand, for you and the community? I know you're a very serious business guy in and amongst everything else that you do as well. Like, the next 2-3 years, can you give us a little bit of a forward-thinking snapshot?
Yeah, because that's always where my mind is, Chris.
Yeah.
Because if you get complacent, you die, right? If you just sort of rest on your laurels, somebody's going to eclipse you. So I am always thinking about what is next. I still believe that podcasting isn't even close to hitting its stride and really sort of having
I'll agree,
saturation,
100%.
penetration.
Yeah.
As certain things change, I think Spotify was a huge game changer. I think as CarPlay starts to get into more cars, there needs to be a mind shift in the consumer. We're an on-demand generation, right? You talk about Hulu and Disney Plus and Netflix. We're an on-demand consumer in terms of video content. When they realize that there's audio content as well, and it's not just hoping that when you turn the radio on, you'll find something that you might like. But
Yeah.
tuning into who you want, when you want, about what you want.
Yeah.
When that shift happens, I think the medium's going to explode. So I still think there's huge potential for podcasting, and live video for me is a close second in terms of what I do.
What is it about live video particularly that you like above and beyond just doing video? The interaction.
Right, because podcasting, blogging, everything, social media is a one-way push conversation, right? You push out content and then you sit back and wait. I love the dynamic of, and look, you know me, I'm all about authenticity, right? It's not the future of business, it's the current state of business.
Yeah.
There's nothing more authentic than live, right? You can't fake it. They can hear the passion, they can see it. But I love having that real-time interaction and letting the community be involved, not just in the conversation, but in the creation of the content as well.
To wrap up here, I'm curious to know how you feel about how social has changed this particular game that you're in. Because everybody, like, it seems to me, when I go to a Disney park, for example, there's something there. I mean, yes, people do get their phones out, and there's particularly the kids all selfieing and all the rest of it. But I see the adults, funnily enough, when they're walking around, they're not on their phones all that much. Like, they seem to be a little bit more maybe they're scared about the kids running off and stuff like that. But I mean, like, I also have had several Disney park experiences where I will rarely take the phone out of my pocket because I'm so in the moment. How do you maximize the social side of things in an environment where, I mean, we should be dumping the phones when we're in that environment with our families, right? But how do you maximize the reach that it can give you?
I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with cell phones in the parks, right? Because we're supposed to be spending time, quality time. We're saving up for years to go with our family. And what's everybody doing? Everybody's doing this,
yeah,
right? They're not engaging with each other. You go to watch a fireworks show, And short guys like me can't see because everybody's got their phones held. All you see is a sea of white lights. And please don't hold up your iPad when you're trying to film like that.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's like you're holding up a TV
It's like
screen.
watching a TV screen, right?
But it's funny because, from a Disney perspective, Disney sees what people are doing. Look, it doesn't happen if you don't share it on social, right? So now it's just not mom and dad, but the kids are on their phones. My daughter's doing TikToks and Instagrams. I'm doing Facebook and Twitter because I'm the old guy in the room, obviously. But what's happening too in the Disney parks is they recognize that, and they want your phone not to be a distraction, but something that's going to enhance your experience there.
Okay.
So there's interactive games. You can do a lot from your phone in terms of
But only when you're in the park.
only when you're and there's things you can do when you're outside the
Right,
park
right,
too,
right, sure.
because they want to get you excited about the experience. So you can play games at home, but when you're there with Bluetooth, when you go to Galaxy's Edge and the skin of the app changes to something that looks like a Star Wars data pad, and you can go down this very deep rabbit hole with missions and interactive things and stuff to scan. It's remarkable how you don't need to ride an attraction to have a day filled with all kinds of fun little adventures you can do just because of your phone. So
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword because I think that you want to have that face-to-face time with your family, but those games you can play, you can do collectively.
They enhance
Yeah,
everything as
yeah.
well. That's so cool. Man, I love talking to you. It's always so much fun to catch up. For you guys want to find out a little bit more about this guy, LouMongello.com. Links below the video. Everything else will link to the podcast a whole lot as well. Thank you, brother.
Thank you,
It's a
man.
pleasure. As
Appreciate it.
always, we'll be back at you again for another monthly chit chat soon.